Welcome everybody. This is Thiago here. I'm from Brazil, living in Germany. We today have this webinar with Pavan, the president of the Erasmus Mundus Association. We welcome everybody that has joined here to participate via the chat. So you can send us questions, written questions. We're not going to have your microphones or webcams on because it's easier just to use the chat. We really appreciate when people send us the questions and comments. It makes it more fun, makes it more interactive. So do not hesitate to send us a comment. So now I would like to invite then Pavan to the floor. And yeah, have a good presentation, Pavan.
Thank you very much, Thiago. I hope everybody is able to see my screen.
Yes, we are. It's fine.
Yeah, great. First of all, thank you so much for making time on a Saturday, especially midday, to listen to the presentation. As you know, this is a series of presentations or webinar series, what we are trying to do. It's a follow-up of the structural evolution, what we started in November, where we presented the new structure, how it's going to look like, and why there is a necessity for such a new structure. So it's a continuation of that, and we will go much more deeper into the Campus Erasmus Mundus today, and also on the Action to Inclusion. So, of course, all this work has been for more than 1 year from the time we started, but also many of these discussions have evolved over a period of several years of good work from our predecessors. So just to set the context, we have been reflecting a lot. I think we carried out survey last year, wherein we had over 100 of you answering the survey, and mainly the survey was what kind of organization we should be in future, what kind of products and services we should be developing, who are our main stakeholders. Is it just the current students who are doing masters? Is this the alumni? Or is it also the prospective students? What about the European Commission? What about the coordinators? What's the boundary of Erasmus Mundus Association? And it's always been limited also to the joint masters program people. So what have we done? If you see, since the evolution of 2006, the main focus has been very much internal. In the sense that, first of all, to develop an alumni network, develop a student network, trying to cater the needs of, or create a forum wherein we engage and discuss over the good practices, and also a platform for ensuring the quality, the identity, etc. is maintained. But also it's a forum where we get to know different people who have undergone the similar kind of experiences of having studied in minimum 2 or up to 6 different countries through the Erasmus Mundus Masters program. I think it's over the decade now, the things have transformed. So it all started up as a baby from European Commission, completely supported by European Commission. The funding, everything worked quite well until 2010. And then with the new Erasmus Plus program came in the new prospect of Erasmus Plus Student and Alumni Alliance, which is ESA. So the funding which we were receiving was completely channeled, or is completely channeled through ESA. That means that to run any activity in EMA, there is no basic funding available today. So this definitely has an impact in both positive and negative manner. So the positive thing is this has led EMA to look beyond the box which have always worked, of trying to see only the internal aspect of managing the organization. What this has given or done is to EMA to reflect how should we really develop ourselves and organize ourselves for the future. And for the very first time, we brought in a pool of experts and key active members in November. We had lots of panel discussions and debates on this topic, especially involving the European Commission. One thing which came out very good during this discussion is that what is the bigger purpose? Do we have a bigger purpose in the first place? During these discussions, we realized that, of course, we all are doing something which is remarkable, but we are not necessarily making it visible in a global manner. So the whole perspective of the change makers came in, and that's why the conference also was named as Change Makers. So if you see, the basic embodiment of EMA is trying to create the pool of global citizens who are like-minded but yet have a common approach towards the worldly affairs to a larger extent, and to create the global leaders with a very open mindset, which is very critical and important with the challenges what we have been faced in the world, a pool of global talent which can really address the needs of research and innovation for future and also the current challenges, and a global pool of volunteers who are very interested to make difference in their communities through their volunteer work, both socially and also in terms of impactful for the community itself. And by being any of this, one can wear different hats in this, and that's what many of us in EMA have been doing. And by doing this, we want ourselves to be more forward thinking and untap the complete potential of EMA being a change maker, which we haven't projected enough. But this also gives a greater visibility, greater context of EMA in the stakeholders' eye. It also puts EMA on a world map, trying to be a non-profit organization catering not only the prestigious Erasmus Mundus scholarship holders, but also catering a bigger purpose of what really the world needs. So the idea is now to really, and that's why we call this as EMA Spark project, which we are launching. It's concises of all these, comprise of all these elements. And the main thing is the holistic idea is to transform institutions, what we are part of, and also to, already we're breaking the traditional cultures which world puts in, and we don't have any boundaries in terms of our friendship, in terms of our liking towards food, in terms of how we see each other. So how can we spread this kind of a message in a global context? But by doing that, how can we create a new set of reforms when it comes to education, research, and innovation? I think that's where we have a vital role, because many of the members will end up being active leaders in various communities, whether it's an academic world, whether it's an industrial or an entrepreneurial spirit or a social entrepreneurship, anywhere this spirit can be carried forward. So the motto for this kind of a thinking is to, of course, produce young leaders, produce the change makers, make everybody believe that everybody have basic opportunity to contribute and everyone is a change maker. And of course, at the end of the day, keeping the brand identity of Erasmus Mundus in everything. So this was the proposed structure, which was presented in November, and this has gone a lot of transformation since a year. And this will be, right now, there is a legal team, 3 members who are working on helping develop the new statute and the new internal articles, which will be put forward for amendments in February General Assembly in Vienna. So as you know, we are trying to professionalize. It means we launched a project called EMA Professionalizing, and this is also a part of it, which aims at really restructuring or reorganizing to the needs of what is the current setting. So for those of you who didn't listen to the previous presentation, the whole idea here is to move away from some of the lingos, which it's very outdated, to a new lingo which really attaches ourselves as a professional non-profit organization. So the units will be much more clearer and will have much more clarity in the task and activities which they will do. And also we are trying to merge some of the activities many of the sub-teams are doing and trying to bring them in a more cohesive manner so that it gives much more visibility and to have a greater impact. So if you see, the internal affairs will now just be a sub-team within the presidential team, which will work on the legality and the legal aspects. We don't foresee that to have a separate service team as such. And also the secretariat, which we established last year, which was quite a good success in the way the process was done, but it was very difficult to sustain. So now we have applied for funding through the ESA budget to have certain money to establish this in Brussels officially, wherein people will be given some kind of an incentive to stay, some kind of subsidiary to have food and accommodation. So we are working on different models there. So hopefully that will start really kicking in an actual form. And then moving away from the service team leaders concept to directors of the units, and also these directors will have head of the units specifically under each of these units. To give you context, of course, communication and IT, we see them more synergetic and they don't work as an end entity. So right now we are working on EMA digitalization project, where the new community portal will be ready in March 2019. And also we're working on the new website, which will be started in January 2019. And as you see, the communication team has put an incredible amount of work in the last 1 year. And I think it's been super proactive, one of the really active team, even with very limited resources. The kind of work they have produced and done is extraordinarily great. And IT team is, of course, we're always looking for volunteers. It's limited by a few resources, but again, the team is working very hard to ensure the community portal comes up in the best possible manner. And also the website will be much more to the needs of EMA for the future. So these two activities are definitely happening. So there will be a lot of new things which will be coming out of this team. So the idea is to give much more empowerment to different teams so that not every burden is just on the leader itself, which is now the case because most of the service team leaders have to take most of the work themselves, and it is extremely difficult to channel the activity and channel the decision making. So what we're trying to create is to have a bit more easier decision making process, but also empowering people and giving a bit more value for what kind of contributions they do. And the task force lead, the task force could range from a week to months. So it doesn't have to be a long-term project. So mini projects which is done for a specific period of time. So, and the idea now with the new structure is there will not be elections for these directors, for the head of units and task force leads, but everything will be based on selection. That means that there is a basic criteria and a basic skill sets which is required to lead these professions. Because at the end of the day, if you want to become sustainable, if you want to come across a professional organization which the external stakeholders would like to partner with us for projects which we can generate revenues, or companies want to partner with us so that they can benefit from us, then we need to move away from this student alumni concept to something much more professional. So this is one way to go about it. But also the way the president and vice president will be selected or elected in the next year is a filtering process, where in the first stage we will have independent committee which will review the applications, and then the ones which are shortlisted, the top 2 or top 3, will be then invited to the General Assembly, where the forum gets to vote for him. But at least there is a basic filtering processes, because it is important all these roles are done in a more significant manner, because it is a lot of commitment, both at an volunteer level, but also at the professional level, leading some team. So it's important that everybody takes this role in a serious manner, and not necessarily just for their personal gain for their CVs, but actually do quality work. So the PRNet, Course Quality Advisory Board aspects, some aspects of professional development, all these things will be combined into students and alumni relation. There will be a special focus on students related products and services, and also for alumni. which has not been the focus so far in EMA. So this will give a much more comprehensive focus. The products and services will be based on that. Same goes for international projects units. We never had one. We have managed to write in few tender. We have managed to write in few projects. We have been successful in some, but just as an affiliated partner. That means that in some cases, we're getting some funding for the time which the members are putting in, but otherwise we are not being able to generate projects as a complete project partners. So this is one way for us to move forward to develop this international projects units. And hopefully this will be a very big part of us generating a lot of revenues. Something we started already is the external relations, and which is mainly focusing on the partnership and sponsorship. So the idea is to start generating sponsorship globally, but also for event specific, and also for partners to not only partner with projects, but also who can help, the services could be utilized by our members, but also it's a win-win situation for both EMA and the partners. We're looking for that kind of a mechanism. And we see that if you really want to sustain, this is very important for us to have such a unit which is completely working on. So the international projects unit, external relation is more or less completely new. The outreach and cooperation, this is where the chapter is going to be transformed. The main essence of the chapters, I think there is a bit of misconception regarding the chapters being dissolved. It's not the true case. What we're trying to do is really trying to empower the grassroots level activities of the chapter. That means that there will be much more empowerment, much more visibility, and decision-making capacity being given to the chapters. I will explain this in detail in the next section, but here is where the Campus Erasmus Mundus fits in. That's what we call them as, or campuses. That's what they're part of. So the idea here is to really understand the real needs of the local community from a grassroots level, wherein we tie up with the local NGOs, local institutions, governmental organizations to cater to the needs of the prospective students, but also the ones who are returning back home, or also the ones who are currently studying can engage and contribute to their home countries. But we believe that it should be not only on the country level, but also from a city level. So the idea is to start the campuses on a city level. Say, for example, I live in Oslo. There are quite a few Erasmus Mundus graduates who are studying here, who are living and working here, and also who are interested to come to Norway to study. So the idea of this campus is just to tap into the needs of these people and develop section which basically supports the needs, but also collaborate with the like-minded local organizations. For example, ESN, for example, Marie Curie, for example, the International Students Union in Norway. So there are different opportunities where we can develop joint activities, so that's the main idea. And then, of course, we can have, say, Oslo is just one example. We could have several cities in Norway which could be reformed in this manner. And then we have a national chapter, which is Norway chapter. Right now, we just have at one European level, and it's very difficult for just the European chapter board to control, to really ensure the activities are spread across the whole geography of Europe. So this gives that kind of a clarity and visibility. So it's not trying to change the whole chapter mechanism, but to really empower the chapters from the grassroots level. And we want the chapters to grow organically, because what we have seen is that there are many chapters who are super active, but at the same time, there are many chapters who are not active at all. So certain people take positions in the board, but then nothing is done. Nothing is really followed up, especially when the EU delegations are trying to contact. There is no one to respond to. So we want to really make this much more leaner and simpler process, but at the same time also make it much more visible and clear. So that will be the main focus here. But this is more on the executive board level. What we're also trying to do now is that, most importantly, we're going to have an advisory board which will be constituted by experts. We're now working on a mechanism to bring experts from industry, from academia, from the commission, from public institutions. That means that highly influential people who can help us channel the way we would like to progress forward. So they would be important for us, because we haven't had this kind of a mechanism where we are seeking inputs from really top-notch people who can really set the tone, how we can shape the organization. Of course, the inputs is mainly from the EMA members, but also the influential people who have worked in this kind of a sector can help us develop and sustain ourselves, progress more. So along with that, we'll also have a cross-cutting unit, which will be mainly task force based. Of course, it will have the head of the units. It will not have its own director. It will be mainly focused on developing the volunteering program on a global level, trying to develop capacity for in-house for EMA to function, the project management aspects, the tools required for project management, the tools required for the whole governing of EMA. So all these kind of things will be built in this unit. So you can consider this more like an organizational development unit, with a bit strong focus on the human resource side of it and ombudsman side of it. So all in all, I don't think we're trying to change the whole prospect of EMA, no. And that's why we call this as an evolution, because this is more like a reform of what has been thought about, what has been discussed for years and years, but nothing has really done. So right now we are trying our best with whatever capacity, limited capacity we have, with whatever best efforts which we can do. Means, as you see that we had almost zero budget in the last year, but still we have put up a really considerable amount of work, and we really want this to happen because we see this will really help EMA nurture forward. Moving forward, just to give a bit more insight on the Campus Erasmus Mundus, which I was trying to explain, the whole idea is to establish campuses across the globe. The main perspective is to increase the presence across the countries and across the cities, especially on the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. We will be developing certain guidelines, certain criteria on how these campuses could be established, how they should maintain, to ensure that there are no more fake campuses, but everything have some kind of a basic adherence. Let's think of a simple business model. Maybe in this case could be Starbucks. Of course, I'm not a big fan of Starbucks, but something like that, where you have a central entity, and then you have several franchises spreading across different cities, because there is always a demand that has to be met. Maybe in some cities the demand is much high, so maybe you will have campuses, several campuses. In some cities maybe the demand is less. So the idea is to progress from 0 campus to hopefully at least 100 campuses by next year. If you see the way we do EMA Day is something similar too, where people from different cities across the world organize the EMA Day. So just think about if we had a physical space, either collaborated with university or with a local partner. So that's what we want to move into. We're also already looking into how these campuses can tie up closely with other local NGOs, partner organizations like ESN, Marie Curie, Holland Alumina Network. We're working with Philippines government, Indonesian government. So there are different, and Asian Youth Foundation. So there are different mechanisms which we can develop to really, because we believe that if we just try to do something just by ourselves, the outreach is of course going to be there, but it's not so much as when we do in a collaborative manner. And by doing this, the idea is to develop more pool of change makers, give them a visibility locally and internationally, extend this project of Human Erasmus Mundus and showcase the whole social side of Erasmus Mundus perspective, but at the same time also showcase all the incredible innovation, research, which and the educational reforms which many of our members are contributing to. try to focus on the youth, especially the leadership aspects of the youth, wherein hopefully many of the people might end up becoming leaders in their own way. And also the whole perspective is to empower the activities at a very, very local level. Like even if an activity is done in a school where one of our member basically is doing some coaching classes to train school kids to be more open-minded, or how to have a healthy lifestyle, or how to even have some awareness about sanitation or waste management, we need to launch on these level. What's EMA's take on global health? What's EMA's take on the different sustainable development goals? So it's all tied up to this kind of a thinking. And at the end of the day, what we want is the chapters to be completely independent, sustainable in their own manner, in their own structuring, but the basic criteria will be set by the governing body here. Because it's important that we maintain a basic decor, a basic standards, and then how the engagement is done is left to the individual chapters and the campuses. So we believe that this is really going to have a significant impact. So this means that we will open up the chapters not only for Erasmus Mundus members who are based in there, who are mostly alumni because they're either gone back after their studies and they're not currently studying in Europe. But then we also would like to open up these doors for who are willing or who are interested to study in Europe, to have an experience of mobility. And also we're open to welcome this for others, stakeholders like researchers, people from industry who are interested in this kind of a mindset. We would like to open this up. So there would be volunteers of our organization, not necessarily members, but volunteers. So the idea is that EMA has its own membership, but also we are very interested to have volunteers who are not part of EMA membership to actively involve and engage in these activities. I've taken this from one of a very large organization which has established itself in 1980s. So we are very new compared to them, but there is a substantial funding which they generate. The idea is very similar to what they're trying to do when it comes to what we're thinking in terms of Campus Erasmus Mundus. So the idea is to develop this kind of a mindset. Their focus is only on social entrepreneurship, but we are also looking from a very much focused on different aspects. So what we're trying to create is a pool of network, both within the country, within the cities, and across the countries too. So if you see in this example, there is a good substantial number of people working and channeling into this. So that's what we want to do. We want to really engage lots of campuses that will tie up with local leaders, entrepreneurs, and that will hopefully generate its own funding, which could establish an official legal entity or an office in the long run, which can sustain to the needs of the people in the ground level. So the ambition, what we're aiming for, maybe in 10 years down the lane, depending on how the leadership takes forward these kind of a concept, we could end up being in a similar fashion. And I think that should be our bigger aim, and that should how we should look forward to. As of now, today, we don't have any paid positions in EMA, but in future, I see that changing. In future, I see that we would be able to employ if you think in this manner. So why there's a need for Action 2 and Action 3, which I'm also thinking, because they're not necessarily an individual, but it's more like a higher education institution. Because now we've been discussing for 1 year to include the coordinators of the Erasmus Mundus program, the professors of the Erasmus Mundus program, into our community portal, which will happen in March 2019 already. The coordinators have expressed this as a great thing because this is one way for them to maintain the alumni base, but also have an interaction with this current set of students, but also promote internationally their master's program and the kind of research and the kind of excellent innovation what they're trying to do. What Action 2 and Action 3 did, means for those of you who don't know, Action 2 is mainly an Erasmus Mundus partnership between European and third country, even though I'm not a big fan of this third country language. It's written by the European Commission. So say that it's a partnership between European and non-European higher education institution, and the mobility spreads anywhere between months to years. And the fellowship is given to students, to professors, to researchers at all kind of levels. And most of them had a short mobility, a short stint, and have gone back to their respective countries. So since we're thinking of this Campus Erasmus Mundus, it makes absolute sense to bring the Action 2 as added or affiliated or just as volunteers into this, giving them access to our community portal as external volunteer or as Action 2 volunteers. In that way, we will be able to really uplift the activities on the country level, on the city level. At the same time, they'll also have this proudness of having undergone an Erasmus Mundus program. So it'll also give us an empowerment from moving from an 15,000 members to say that we'll have close to 100,000 volunteers. So we'll still have the membership, which is mainly the crux of EMA, but then the number of volunteers would significantly grow. The outreach would significantly grow. And the same thing goes for promoting higher education institutions, is that there are consortiums which are taking part in projects who are part of this Action 3. So we are now discussing or developing MOUs to work with the Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters, where we are going to offer products and services for the consortium, which they can pay some nominal fee to benefit from the EMA's outreach. So we could bring these people on board and have some institutional partnership, which is also important. And they might help us to establish campuses across the globe already, because they've already taken part in this Erasmus Mundus program. It becomes much more common for them to say, okay, here we're very interested to establish this campus in Bangkok, for example. We have involved in several projects. Here are the projects. Here is the way we want to go about. So this is the way where we're thinking, because we think that this is only going to enrich and tap into the more inclusivity, how EMA should persist, or the Erasmus Mundus program is developed, and also portray the whole aspect of unity and diversity that we really need to voice out. We can't be just a small bubble. Of course, we became legal entity in 2015, but still most of the energy and time is going on sustaining and getting funds just through ESA. So if you want to be more ambitious, if you want to really have a global name and a presence in a long term, this is the best possible way to approach. And this is the feedback we got from several different stakeholders. And the current steering committee is very happy and working extremely hard to incorporate these mechanisms. And for those of you who still haven't had the opportunity to read the document which has been published on the EMA website regarding the EMA survey, which was carried out in 2016, and the EMA Action Plan, which is gives a very good list of things which has been planned for 2018-19. Please have a read at it. As you all know, the GA is under preparation. So for the very first time, we are going to closely cooperate with Marie Curie Alumni Association in joint sessions. So EMA GA is happening between 23rd to 25th of February in Vienna. Every one of you is invited. Unfortunately, we have such a small budget. It's reduced to even less than half than what we used to have in the previous years. So we cannot invite everyone. We cannot, sorry, everybody is invited. Unfortunately, we cannot fund everyone. So those of you who can really manage by yourself, please do. I'm doing that myself, and I really encourage every member who has benefited from such a program, who see the value in this manner, to do the same. I think I'm done. I think it was quite extensive what I was trying to go through, but please feel free to write in your question, and I'm more than happy to answer it. Of course, this recording will be available. You can just listen to it again. And it's important that we really come prepared for the General Assembly to have such a big reforms and transformation. Any questions?
Great. I shared now in the chat here the two files that Pavan mentioned, the EMA survey and then the EMA Action Plan. And it would be great to see if the people who are watching, if there are any questions, any comments, you can use the questions section here. We also have Oksana with us today here from the steering committee. Pavan, how would you like to proceed then?
I think maybe there are questions already. Yeah. Okay. So Armando basically asked, it is still not very clear to me the inclusion of Action to beneficiaries. As I tried to explain, Armando, EMA will still remain as an organization wherein the members of Erasmus Mundus Association will be Erasmus Mundus Action 1 who have been granted this, because Action 2 program is stopped. What we are trying to do is that by opening up for Action 2 or Action 3 or for anyone outside of EMA as volunteers, we are trying to create an active volunteer base through which the organization can sustain. So to just make it clear, we are not offering membership for Action 2 or Action 3. We are trying to create some kind of a volunteering mechanism in which they can benefit from being part of the community. But at the same time, EMA can benefit in a long run by having them on board, because they can also add into the needs of the greater mission of EMA is to be the change maker. But I think I would like to split your question. You have okay. I think I tried to answer that they're not going to be members of EMA. It is, yes. The thing is, it's going to be just collaborators. Yeah. Okay, so I think you understood that we are on the same page, because it's impossible for us to expand the membership base from what we are today to everybody in Action 2, Action 3 or others, because we first of all are struggling to keep up the needs and necessity of our own members. So it would definitely doesn't make sense. But having more volunteers, having more collaborators, maybe that's even better word, like collaborators, it will really strengthen the ground activities in specific countries, because many of the Action 2 members come from South Asia, Southeast Asia, South America, some part of Balkan, Russia. So this will really help to propel activities for us, increase the number of active volunteers on that ground level. So that's the main focus of our future. Great. No, I totally understand, because with no community portal for the last 1.5 years, with almost zero budget, with all the challenges of what we have been put across, no matter how much we really do our best with the European Commission, things takes ages to resolve. It's not been a very pleasing term, even though I would give so much credit to the team who have been working tirelessly, putting so many hours in a week amid their own full-time jobs and full-time lives. It has been a struggle, and what we are trying to do is just trying to solve one puzzle at a time, and hopefully these reformations are much needed now, and that will help us to sustain for at least next 5 to 10 years, wherein these reformations could be re-looked into again. Any more questions from the others who are attending? Nina, thanks, and good to see you attending this webinar. Means the whole idea is it's not what kind of activities. Any activity which serves the greater purpose of Erasmus Mundus or of our organization is what we are trying to do. So, as I said, how we are trying to align our mission and vision is through the Sustainable Development Goals. So that's one of the work which we are going to do in February when we are having our General Assembly, where we will devise a clear, much more clearer strategy and mandate of how EMA is going to shape itself until 2025. And the activities, etc., will be related to the Sustainable Development Goals. It will be related to the Erasmus Plus Framework Program. It's mainly related to making changes which can really move the society or the needs of the society forward, especially focusing on education, research, and innovation. So the idea, just to give a bit more context, is that when we establish, the first and foremost step is to develop the campuses in various cities, and then try to see how many members are actively involved and how many volunteers or collaborators who would be part of this kind of mechanism, and then develop activities and events according to the bigger purpose or bigger need of the organization. And many of the activities and events will be triggered from the needs of the local community or the local cities where you're operating from. Absolutely, Gisela. This has been in the thoughts for some time now, and now working with Marie Curie quite extensively in the last several months, and also been getting inputs from many key stakeholders, which I have the opportunity to interact on a regular basis. I think it's much needed. And also we will open up honorary membership. So maybe we will try to honor some Nobel Prize winners, honor some really influential people to be part of EMA. So the advisory, what we're thinking is to have people from the national Erasmus Plus experts who are retired European Commission members, who are renowned academicians, renowned politicians, renowned industrial. So it's trying to bring this kind of mechanisms into place because we need that. Until we have this kind of a structure, we'll always see ourselves, or the world will always see us as a students and alumni organization, which we are, but that's one part of the organization, but not only it. Katrina is there, I think, being one of the old members and also very proactive. I would like to hear what do you think about the progression, because you've always been critical about and giving lots of good inputs. So I would like to hear your feedback on what do you think, how have we progress, and what do you think regarding how we are heading? Does it make sense from your end? I'm not sure, Tiago, since there are only a few people, is it easy for us to open up for, talk to everybody? Because it's not a lot of people to manage the discussion, no?
It is an idea. Then if anyone wants to talk, they still have to send me a question here saying turn my microphone on, because I don't want to turn their microphones on without knowing if they want to.
Yeah, sure. So if anybody wants to speak up or give feedback, just say that you would like to talk, and then Tiago gives you access. Okay, Giselle, she said she wants to speak.
Here, you go, Giselle.
Hey, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi everyone, thanks a lot, Pavan, for your explanation. I really like the new ideas of EMA. I just would like to comment that I believe we should, instead of looking only in terms of numbers, primarily look for active members in EMA, because I think have a very big organization is very good from the side of numbers, like and like different continents, etc. The like more like volunteers or members, but we should also be sure they're being active, because also it's more challenging having a big organization. So I just disagree in this point. I think we should more focus now in having like active members instead of like only numbers. I don't know if you want to comment on that also. Thank you very,
Sure,
very much.
sure. Thank you. And I think it's a very valid and important point you make, but maybe I didn't explain myself. The idea is not to grow EMA in just numbers, but also create a much more active base. As I said, we will develop mechanisms which will clearly give certificate of participation. It will give a global volunteering experience, global talent acquisition. So now we are working with Marie Curie, AIESEC on developing these mechanisms. So the idea is the structure will help us to activate, hopefully. We try to run a lot of campaigns, and I think and also believe that once the community portal will be ready, it will start activating the membership quite proactively again. We'll be able to have that outreach. We're working with the European Commission on getting access to the database which we lost, in which almost 12 to 13,000 members' identity were lost. So we are trying to work on getting that back. But we will again rerun this whole campaign of activating EMA. But even to activate, like why would somebody wants to volunteer with an organization? I think the branding really matters. So it's a kind of an iterative process. I think, having worked in EMA for 9 years, if we have a brand, automatically more people are interested to volunteer. So it's a kind of a mutual thing. So as soon as we start focusing on the numbers, I feel that also a lot of volunteers will become active. But at the same time, I agree with you that we need to develop. We have developed, but we were not successful. But we have to reignite and reshape active member base again.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all from my side.
So you answer that phone and mute your mic.
Yeah,
Anyone,
I'm very sorry for the phone.
and anyone else would like to talk? You can just let us know here by the questions if I should turn your microphone on. Let me see if I missed. Pavan, you can also check.
Yeah, there is one question on Katerina. So yeah, it's thanks for your feedback. Just to give you an idea, so Katrina, I don't know if you really followed the whole presentation, but let me go back to that slide. So the idea of chapters is it's remain to a larger extent the same, but it will empower much more activities on a grassroots level. So I was trying to explain is that we have European chapter, which covers what 30 plus countries. It doesn't really have the outreach what it should be having, the kind of impact it can really make. Like Armando is part of the European chapter, but I'm not sure how much of outreach the European chapters has really had on every single country. So what we're trying to do is that we would like to establish campuses with for example, let's even begin with the Erasmus Mundus Masters program. So whichever city, whichever institution is having this Erasmus Mundus program, we would like to establish something called Erasmus Mundus Campus. The idea of this campus is just in a very simple manner. It could be like a student-led body, or it's some kind of a place where Erasmus Mundus students who have been studying in that can study, who can get access to, and they would be involved and get access to various activities. So there will be an opportunity for them to collaborate with ESN, with Marie Curie, with other local volunteering organization, but at the same time get access to different activities. Right now, we haven't really formalized this. And that also goes to non-EU countries where this is a big challenge. Like, for example, I come from India, and it's a huge country with more than 30 different states. And most of our board is located in Delhi. There is barely any accessibility and any outreach. So what we're trying to do now with the new structure is that working with the Action 3 institutions which have taken part in Erasmus Mundus program, we will establish this campus. They could work with the local university, they could work with the local school or something. So the idea is to empower the chapters much more than what they are. Today, I think the chapters, the ideology of the chapter was great when it started, but today it's become limited to just few activities and just few pre-departure events, and few chapters are super active. Most of them are just disengaged. So what we're trying to do is give the muscle power on a ground level to really activate in a strong manner. And so the idea is the chapters will have different levels. So we'll start with the cities, say that Campus Oslo. Like that, we'll have Campus Bergen, Campus Trondheim, whatever major cities, the tier 2 cities, depending on how the development happens. And then you have the national chapter. And then all these things will be developed organically. We're not going to force something to happen, or we just don't want to cover a region just because we want to, but we want all these things to develop organically. So in this manner, I think there will be more activities, there will be more accountability, and also there will be people who want to take responsibility because they want to do something, not because it looks lucrative on their CV to be president of Indian chapter or a president of African chapter. So I think this is the message we want to share, and this is the message we want to progress for EMA. And we have seen this has been a success story in AIESEC. Thiago, just add anything if you want here, because you are an AIESEC member, you know how it works. And this will give us an opportunity to develop some global programs in which members from different countries can take part, like an annual young summit or a young changemaker summit. So it gives a bit more help us developing mechanisms which can really trigger new perspective in the way EMA is organized. Thiago, maybe you can add on AIESEC, because I think it's a also Giselle, it's a great example, and we have been now discussing with them, and they're going to help us with the strategy 2025 to really shape how, because they've been existing for over what, 8 decades now, and they've been very successful in it.
Yeah, and I mean AIESEC. So AIESEC officially is the world's largest student organization, and they have existed for at least 60 years. And what that means is, yes, they do have a lot of know-how on how to how to organize conferences, how to develop their members. They put a lot of thought into what the members should learn while they are participating in their organization. Of course, it is a little bit different. Usually in AIESEC, you become a member and then you work in the organization, and usually people don't stay in the organization for that long. Usually it's about between 1 semester and 2 years. It's kind of the average amount of time that people participate in there. And which is different with us in EMA, where, well, being an active member can be can mean that you participate for a shorter period, but overall you would be a member of EMA for life as an alumni. But I think we do have a lot to learn. We can learn a lot from other organizations, and I think AIESEC is a great one, because they do have put a lot of thought into these systems.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thiago. Yes, Katrina, I mentioned that in the previous webinar, so it would be great if you could have the opportunity to work. I can still go back and show that quickly in my presentation. So as you see, the service team, the steering committee, what we used to call, will be called as directors. Still, the whole steering committee term will change into board of directors. So the president, vice president, their roles more or less will remain similar, but then they will have more responsibility on the ESA board for now, and on the internal affairs and secretariat will be under the president, vice president. Means right now, internal affairs was a separate team, but now it won't be. And we have created a couple of new teams, and we have merged, like say PD, PRNet, CQUAB, lots of them are merged into student and alumni relations. Communications, IT have been merged together. International projects units, it's a new unit, but has elements from EMA Secretariat and CQUAB, which we have tried to do. Partnership, sponsorship, we started last year. That will become a new unit, and there will be a head of unit and a director for that. The chapters will be completely under outreach and cooperation at different levels, as I was trying to explain. Local, national, international, or regional chapters. So that's the way we would like to progress here. So EMA's governance will be led by the president and these board of directors in support of external advisory members, etc. But the local aspects and the local governance will be handled by the chapters themselves. I hope this gives you more clarity. Yeah, thanks, Janan. I think that's definitely a very valid point, and hopefully we're going to make it much more exclusive and clearer. So, means gaining from the being part of EMA or volunteering for EMA is, first of all, they get access to people who have undergone Erasmus Mundus Masters in different fields. So there is an opportunity for them to have a professional network where they can tie up and do joint work, joint publications, learn more about what's interesting thing which is being done in research and innovation in different fields. Secondly, it's a great opportunity to meet not only people from your masters who are from different countries, but a larger pool of people from across the world. It gives much more deeper intercultural understanding. Third thing is that being part of the community gives you lots of leadership skills, soft skills, project management skills. These are very sought out for by the companies. It is sought out for in an academic institution. They will get an access to getting letter of recommendations from the European Commission, from the Erasmus Mundus Association. And most importantly, it will really help them to develop networks which can lead to job opportunities, which can help them understand if they're going through some struggle about even undergoing depression, undergoing whatever cultural aspects. There will be an opportunity for them to talk to someone who has gone through that or is going through that. So there's an abundance opportunity in this way. But at the same time, holistically, all in all, there will be an opportunity for people to involve and make a small contribution to be a change maker in the world we live in, which has not been the thinking. In EMA, though EMA volunteers, EMA members are doing this proactively everywhere, wherever they're living. This is what we would like to promote, and this is the biggest of all kind of gain one can get through. Unfortunately, we haven't developed the video, but we just launched a video called Does It Matter campaign, which shows the big essence of how we are all indifferent, yet we care each other and treat each other more as human than the indifferences. Right now, we're working on a video called I Am EMA. So that will touch upon this side of it, Janan. So hopefully we will launch it in GA in February, this video called I Am EMA. So there will be a series of campaign related to that also. But right now we are working on the campaign called Does It Matter? Yeah. And any more questions, or hopefully some of you are able to come to the General Assembly, or some of you have already been invited through you being active in some of the teams. So it's going to be in Vienna. I would really look forward to see active participation, and such kind of good debate and good discussions will only help us become better as an organization. It will only strengthen us to move forward, I can say.
Yes, and I think it's a good point maybe to finish here, and but we can ask people just to say goodbye now, so we know that they were with us until the end. We have recorded this session, and we are going to make it available probably tomorrow already. I'll share the file with Pavan. Any more comments, Pavan?
Yeah, just one thing is there will be next webinar in January, mid-January. I think it's on the 13th or something, where we are discussing on the statute amendments and internal regulations. So if you have time, and just please feel to be part of it, because it's very important also for you guys to be part of that.
So yeah, perfect. Thanks everybody. You can say goodbye now, the people who haven't said, and have a good weekend. It's cold in Europe, so I hope some of you are enjoying better weather than we are.
Thank you very much, Thiago, for chairing this session as always. And I think there were some really good questions, and yeah, it looks positive. I think people are getting a bit more hang of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very complex, but I do think, you know, you allowing us to participate in this debate and take time to discuss about it with us, it has been great. And it's a good thing that we can share this recording with the people who couldn't be here today as well, so that they can have a visual and you know, audio explanation about it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna close the webinar now. Thank you, Pavan, and everybody have a good weekend then.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Bye for now.